East West Seed Foundation's Urban Gardening Webinar Series. In this webinar series, we will teach you how you can grow your own healthy, nutritious food at home. My name is Joyce, and in today's episode, I will be sharing tips and hints on how you can best design your home garden. Gardening is both an art and a science, and it's the tension that is at the root of the confusion for many new gardeners. There are scientific principles that need to be followed. Overcrowding plants or growing in poor quality soil will set you up for disappointment. Some other principles like sun exposure, crop rotation, green manuring, cover cropping, and others need to be considered. However, these scientific principles still allow for a lot of different possibilities, and the art is in placing plants in a way that make best use of your space while applying the science of gardening. You are able to design something that's uniquely your own garden, and that becomes a very satisfying and enjoyable process. Setting up a vegetable garden can be looked at as a three-step process. Any vegetable garden layout should take all these three steps into consideration. They are creating optimal environmental conditions, deciding on the planting structure, working out the vegetable garden design. Each step is important, and your garden planning should include all three. We will now take each step and provide suggestions and tips on how you can come up with the most optimal solution depending on your garden conditions. Let's start! Growing vegetables is far easier than growing flowers and fruits. They require less maintenance and reach maturity much faster. However, the success of your vegetable garden will depend chiefly on these environmental aspects: soil conditions, water accessibility, sunlight exposure, and the security we give to them. Let's look at every aspect and see what we need to know. Soil is far from dull stuff. It is made up of humus, organic matter, and three different types of particles: clay, silt, and sand. It provides a plant with an anchor for its roots, its water, and its nutrients. The soil must be loose but firm. Adding compost, vermicast, carbonized rice hull, coco coir, and/or sand improves soil structure and water holding capacity. All vegetables need soil that contains nutrients, but some soil needs a helping hand to get to an adequate point. Before adding anything to your garden soil, test it to see what's already there in terms of pH and nutrients. There are a few ways to get a soil test. You can collect a soil sample and submit this to your local agriculturist in the LGU for soil testing using a soil test kit or STK. This will give you the pH and nutrient content of your soil. You can also buy a soil pH testing tool for continuous use. In the following video, we can see how to measure soil pH with a Takemura meter. The pH describes the relative acidity or alkalinity of soil, which has huge implications for plants. The pH scale runs from 0 to 14, with 7 being neutral. Measurements between 0 and 6.9 are acidic, and those between 7.1 and 14 are alkaline. The target vegetable garden pH is 6 to 6.5. pH is so important to plant growth because it determines the availability of almost all essential plant nutrients. If the vegetable garden pH is too acidic, certain nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium become less available. Alkaline soils impede the availability of nutrients like iron, manganese, copper, and zinc. After testing your soil, you may find that the soil pH isn't within the ideal range of 6 to 6.5. If your soil is too acidic, you need to raise soil pH so it's more alkaline by adding lime or wood ash. To lower soil pH, you need to add soil amendments like compost and organic materials in order to get to the ideal range. Just like you, plants need water. It is important to water your vegetable plants regularly, but it is also vital to ensure that there is no water lagging. Water is sucked from the soil by roots, drawn up the stem, and lost through the leaves. It is best to grow a vegetable garden in a spot which receives the maximum exposure to sun. Vegetable plants require a lot of sun for a healthy produce. Sunlight is the engine that powers growth, a process called photosynthesis. Without sunlight, the plant cannot process the nutrients it needs to flourish and bear fruits. In the absence of adequate sunshine, some vegetable plants would end up reducing the size of the produce, or in extreme cases, don't give up any produce at all. Determine the light available in your area as it can be dappled by buildings, nearby houses, trees, and others. Then choose what to grow best. In the table is the sun exposure requirement for various vegetables. In general, the more sunlight they receive, the greater the harvest and the better the taste. The overall amount of light received depends on the direction your garden faces. You can use a compass or observe the sun's passage through your garden. North-facing gardens get the least light and can be damped. South-facing gardens get the most light. East-facing gardens get morning light. West-facing gardens get afternoon light. For security against theft and stray animals, secure garden with a fence. There are 4 planting structures you can consider: flatbed planting, raised bed planting, container planting, and vertical planting. This is the most traditional way of planting vegetables, in that the plants are placed in rows on a flat bed of soil. Traditional flatbed planting using straight rows needs an open space, open to the sun. Why should you consider raised bed gardening? Here are few advantages one can enjoy with this gardening structure. If you have pets or small kids around your house, a raised bed will provide a level of protection to your plants. When there is flooding, your plants are protected from being soaked in water. Weeding need only be done within the bed. Water and nutrients you give the plant are directed within the space of the raised bed. You can create a raised bed on any surface, even the concrete of your porch. In this way, you can utilize any free space around your house. You can raise it higher to make it more accessible as you prefer. Even if you have a lot of space around your yard, you should consider container planting because it's easy to implement and adds to your garden's beauty. For more info and tips, please refer to our Home Gardening Webinar Series Episode 1. It's about container gardening. Vertical vegetable gardens are a space-saving gardening method that allow you the ability to grow your own food without using up your entire yard or balcony space. They encourage plant and vegetable growth by giving them more access to sunlight, making them easier to water, keeping them above pest levels, and improving air circulation. Vertical gardens also make it easier to harvest your food once it's fully grown. You can design a highly symmetrical garden with geometrical shapes and structures, or use a mix and match of asymmetrical design. But remember, designing a vegetable garden is more about which vegetables grow well in each other than about how things look. Some vegetables will excrete substances that can inhibit other plants' growth. Tall vegetables can shade out shorter vegetables. Vegetables in the same family will attract the same pests and need to be moved around each year. Let's walk through and discover important things to consider in designing your vegetable garden. Before you start planting, you need to create a garden plan. Start by using a graph paper and draw a plan of your garden site to scale. Plot every feature you find on your site, both natural and man-made. Use a measuring tape to get approximate measurements. One importance of planning is that you will be able to count the number of hills. Thus, you can determine the number of seedlings to grow based on what vegetables your family loves to eat. With planning, you will be able to save on space by using a combination of the various planting techniques and ensure enough room for easy accessibility to the harvest. Plant well away from trees so that tree root structures do not interfere with vegetable growth and avoid the spread of disease from tree to vegetables. Take note of the amount of sunlight available beside trees before planting nearby. Ally, friend, confidant, BFF, whatever you want to call them. Did you know that plants have natural companions too? When planted next to each other, these plants can help one another thrive in the garden. This is most commonly referred to as companion planting. It's a technique of planting that basically means planting crops that are complementary to each other when grown in close proximity. This can substantially promote the health of your vegetables and should be considered when you're doodling your garden layout. Perfect example of this is corn, Paul sitaw, and squash. Paul sitaw is known to fix nitrogen. The corn acts as a support or somehow provide trellis for the Paul sitaw. And the squash acts like a natural mulch. Have you ever wondered how our local farms manage to supply our need of fresh produce all year long? Naturally, crops that are planted at the same time will often ripen at the same time, leading to a beautiful but overwhelming harvest. Succession planting allows you to enjoy the fruits of your labor continuously rather than all at once. Succession planting, also known as second planting or successive planting, allows you to harvest continuously by staggering propagation of the same or different crops, or planting multiple varieties with different maturing dates. This method is simply staggering the planting of the same crop throughout the season every few weeks, rather than planting your garden all at once and being overwhelmed with an overabundance of one crop. This will give you varying maturity dates of the same crop. The harvest and sow method, also called the relay method, involves growing different vegetables in the same space throughout. Once you harvest your crop, replace it with another crop of a different family. This is also called crop rotation. Intercropping involves growing two or more different crops with different maturity dates in the same space. It's a great way to squeeze the most out of your garden space. The faster maturing crop will be harvested before the second. Slower maturing crop picks up its growing pace and needs the space. Example of this is tomato alongside with lettuce or pechay. Lastly, consider growing flowers in your vegetable garden. Growing marigold, herbs, and lemongrass around the vegetable plants helps keep the nematodes and other pests away. Plants such as tomatoes, peppers, eggplant love the sun. You'll want to reserve the best sunny spots in your garden for these high-value crops. So, add them to your plan first. Next, place plants that like to send out vines that roam around the garden, like melon and squash. These need to be situated at the edge of your vegetable beds so that broad leaves attached to the vines don't cover your other plants. Placing them at the edge, let them spread out across paths or grass. Anything that grows up supports, like peas, beans, and some cucurbits, like bitter gourd and cucumbers, will need to be located where they won't shade other vegetables. Certain plants need to be near others in order to pollinate well and set fruit. The main one you need to consider is sweet corn, which should be grown in groups to ensure that it produces full cobs. What plants do you want to be able to regularly and frequently harvest? Herbs, salad greens, leafy vegetables, tomatoes, and others. These should all be placed nearest your kitchen. Leaving the right amount of space between vegetable plants is very important. This helps reduce crop competition for the sunlight and nutrients that is vital to growth. It also helps to conserve water by keeping the soil moist around shaded part of the plants. Proper spacing also gives enough air to circulate around and in between the plants, thereby preventing spreading of plant diseases and easy transfer of insect pests. Did you know the top 3 vegetables consumed in the Philippines are eggplant, yardlong beans, and squash? With careful thought to your garden design, you will be able to serve your family this healthy and nutritious food straight from your garden. Thanks for joining us in this webinar series, and we hope that you learned a lot. Please like and follow our FB page to get updates. To learn more about East West Seeds vegetable varieties, please download Crop Wiki EWS app on Google Play or Apple App Store. You can now order high-quality vegetable seeds online from the comfort of your home. Visit East West Seeds official Lazada store today. Bye for now!